right-hand pitching for tonight's 10-game slate. No cores on this game, so we don't have to worry about spending down. Not a ton of options overall to really look at and get excited about, but we do have some decent right-handed arms that we can target. Also, some guys with fairly high strikeout upside. Looking at the first game, Reds and Pirates, Ivan Nova versus Amir Garrett. You look at Garrett, strong debut. In his opener against the Cardinals, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, 2 hits allowed. Going up against a Pirates team that did hit lefties fairly well last year. They do bring basically 8 righties to the table here tonight. Might run into a little bit more trouble. Not a guy that I'm particularly interested in. I'd rather take the other side of this one with Nova. You do look at Nova. Since arriving in Pittsburgh, this guy's been phenomenal, which we've seen Pittsburgh basically bring in stroking right-handers, struggling left-handers, and kind of turn them around. We saw it with J.A. Happ. We've seen it with A.J. Burnett. Ivan Nova's been kind of another strong starting piece of that. So Nova, for me, I like him quite a bit here. Going back to last year as a whole, 9.2 swing strike rate. Guys not giving up a lot of homers in PNC, which is as expected. 3.76 Sierra. Completely fine with using him in all formats. He's recently priced on both sites, just 8K on DraftKings, 74 on FanDuel. And you look at this Reds offense, against right-handed pitching, nothing to really write home about. 17th in MOBA, 20.6% strikeout rate. They are bottom 10 on the road. So do note that. I know they've kind of been hitting the ball a little bit better so far to start this year. It's still a pedestrian kind of offense here. Mets and Phillies next. Zach Wheeler versus Vincent Velasquez. Talk about Zach Wheeler here first. Struggled in his opener. Wasn't hit particularly hard, which is good to see. Didn't miss a ton of bats, but did have a 21% strikeout rate. He did. Got burned by the long ball, obviously. It was around the strike zone, which was good to see. The one thing that was nice, was the exit velocities were not high at all. Wheeler is still a guy who's going to be probably a reasonable pitcher once he gets back into full strength. So you look at this matchup against the Phillies, a bottom 5 offense going back to last year, 23.1% strikeout rate. The only area I could really see using him, just given the fact that around Nova, around guys like Velasquez, around Stroman on DraftKings, I'd kind of rather just go with those arms. 6,200 on FanDuel is enticing. Problem is he's probably not going to go particularly deep into the game. Went 4 innings last time out. I think his max is 6, and it's going to be kind of a push to get to 6 where you need him to go on FanDuel. But it's certainly possible. I'm still just reserving for GPPs only. One, because you can fit a ton of bats in there with it. And there's not a lot of high arms that you're really going to be looking at anyway tonight. So it's okay to kind of pay down or pay in that mid-range. So I don't mind Wheeler, but probably more of a FanDuel play for me. On the other side of things, Vincent Velasquez, one of the higher strikeout rates going tonight, 28.4%, 11.5 swing strike rate going back to last year. One thing that does concern me a little bit, lefties did have some success against them, which, going up against the Mets lineup that obviously is heavily left-handed, that is the concern. We saw the upside of the Mets offense last night. But I actually like targeting Velasquez here. A lot of strikeout upside. You look at the Mets, yes, had some success against right-handed pitching. 21% strikeout rate, though. So, I think Velasquez, this guy definitely does have double-digit strikeout upside, and probably the only one on tonight's slate that really does. So I don't mind using him, and he's a guy that I'll be looking at. Mainly for tournaments. I still think Nova and Stroman are coming through as the cash game guys for me. Brewers in Toronto next here. Speaking of Marcus Stroman, Chase Anderson on the other side of that one. Anderson's not a guy that I'm looking at tonight. Stroman, however, though, I do like him quite a bit. This guy's decent against right-handed hitters. You look at this Brewers offense, 25.8% strikeout rate going back to last year against righties. Stroman, not a big strikeout pitcher, but we've seen him kind of dominate teams like this. Kind of put the Rays in a similar bet, which he's coming off a nice start with. So you're looking at Stroman, definitely guys with one of the higher shares on the slate. Good ground ball pitcher, 60.2% last year. Around the strike zone, can miss some bats, 9.3%, but not anything exciting. keeps the ball in the park, kind of everything you've asked here, and is a big home favorite, -220. So Stroman certainly in play. Brewers are just projected for about 3.5 runs. And like I said, Anderson not really in play for me. Braves and Marlins next here. Tom Kohler versus Jaime Garcia. I don't want any part of this one, even in a big ballpark. Baltimore, Boston, Stephen Wright versus Ubaldo Jimenez. Lucas Stephen Wright, I mean, we saw him last year pitch pretty well early on. Wasn't particularly bad early in the in his debut here in 2017. Went deep into the game, which is about what you're going to get from him. Look at his numbers against Baltimore last year, fairly average. 7,600 on DK, 88 on FanDuel's way overpriced. I just think given the walks and the hits and stuff that's going to be allowed, it's not going to be a big game for Stephen Wright. I mean, he's a deep GPP play at most. And Ubaldo Jimenez on the other side, no thanks. Dodgers and Cubs, John Lackey, Brandon McCarthy. Neither of these arms are particularly intriguing against these offenses. The only thing that really is going for these guys is that the wind is blowing in at Wrigley. We're looking at a fairly low total, but I don't think there's really a ton of upside with either of these arms. A lot of lefty bats that are rolling right now against John Lackey. Brandon McCarthy against a tough offense. This is not the Padres team that he faced last time out. I'm kind of staying away from this one. A's and Royals, Jason Hamill versus Andrew Triggs. This is probably going to be one of the lower scoring games. You look at Triggs, I have some interest here. I mean, 5,300 on DK, I can see using him as an SP2 if you want to fit some bats in. 6,600 on FanDuel. The guy doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside, but I mean, in this ballpark, you're looking at a Royals team, 28th in WOBA against righties last year, 20.3% strikeout rate. This is not a good lineup anymore. You look at guys like Moustakas and Hosmer, which can't get to guys from the right-handed pitching, but outside of that, I mean, after that, I mean, Lorenzo Cain's not really a threat against righties. Alex Gordon, not a player that's really popping off the radar. And then the back half of that lineup is just it's not that great. So I mean, Andrew Triggs is an intriguing arm. You look at what he's done last year. Has that potential for kind of limiting damage. 26.7% hard contact rate allowed over 62 innings. 21.4% strikeout rate. Doesn't walk a ton of guys either. So I mean, he did have impressive step ground ball rate, was solid as well. So 3.29 FIP. I think Triggs is an interesting arm tonight. I don't mind using him at all. As far as Hamill go, not really looking to use him. I prefer Triggs and guys around that price range a lot more. AJ Griffin, Jesse Chavez in LA tonight. Neither of these guys are particularly exciting either. Griffin's a guy who fairly tough on right-handers, which is good against this lineup. We saw Jesse Chavez have a decent outing last time out. It is a good ballpark for these guys. I kind of feel like really these last year games, as far as pitching goes, the only thing that is going for them is the ballpark. The Angels don't strike out a ton. The Rangers against right-handed pitching, yes, I mean, they do strike out at a league average rate, but still, it's not anything that really jumps out for Chavez to be used tonight. I'm really staying away from both arms and kind of moving on here. Houston, Seattle, Giovanni Gallardo versus Mike Fiers. Fiers got off to a decent start. Definitely a guy who I can see getting another quality start tonight. Just gave up really the one home run last time out. Struggled a little bit against Seattle. Last year, which was a concern, but overall, I think you can really use Fiers as kind of a GPP option in a bigger ballpark there. I'm okay with it, just because he's going to be a low-owned guy. Strikeout upside, fairly average. I wouldn't get anything crazy out of him, but it is a pivot off some highly owned guys, and his price tag really isn't that bad. Giovanni Gallardo, on the other hand, even at home, I mean, this is a guy I'm not really expecting a ton of. This guy's really just looked bad over the last year, and really for the last few. So against the Houston offense that, yes, they're kind of slumping to start the year, still a good one to get through. I'm kind of fading here. Shelby Miller, Matt Cain. Shelby Miller on the road, here. That lineup is not good. We did see some strikeout upside out of him. With Buster Posey out, I mean, this is definitely not a solid lineup, but we did also see Brandon Crawford, Denard Span sit yesterday too. So adding two lefties into the mix there. I don't think the strikeout upside is going to be as high as it was or as what we've seen so far. You still look at Miller. I mean, this guy doesn't miss bats, 7.2% swinging strike rate. The only thing that really goes for him is these ballparks. So I'm kind of staying away. I don't think the upside's really there with a lot of these guys in the last few games. So definitely stick to the early arms. Looking at Stroman, looking at Nova, both the guys in the Phillies game, and Stephen Wright as well, Triggs. So I think that's where you kind of narrow down the field tonight, and that's where I'll be laying. So you can head over to dailyfantasycafe.com, check out the great tools and content.